Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss Nvidia and AMD. Given that the entire market is being driven by AI, it is crucial to consider the technical aspects of both companies in determining the future of the AI market. Nvidia, as the leader in AI, holds a prominent position in this field. Additionally, AMD, as an up-and-coming competitor, also plays a significant role. Therefore, focusing on the operations of the leader, Nvidia, is advisable. Now, let's take a closer look at these two companies and their impact on the AI market. This is Nvidia. I recall Nvidia 3. Previous year we recorded this program. It is Nvidia. It was consolidating in November and December previous year when it was consolidating. At that time we discussed about AMD. This AMD, it will have good opportunities relative to the market. So you observe AMD increased from this point to January 8th. It increased a total of 30% to 40% in terms of its market value. Subsequently, Nvidia managed to break through the neckline on January 8th, initiating a significant upward movement that would continue in the following days. On the day it started to rise, AMD had already risen by 30% to 40%. So what technical analysis will tell you is to take action first, including breaking through this trend line, which one you can enter first, and then the next entry point is at the efficiency operation point of this breakthrough. We often talk about the efficiency operation point, so next up is AMD. Arrived at two waves of satisfying gains. All right, this is where the head and shoulders pattern comes into play. Oh, this is from a book I published in 2014, I remember. Steal the bottom. Left shoulder. When the bottom right shoulder breaks through this line, you must wait for the breakthrough to confirm. Let's repeat this again. It's very important. You must break through this neckline to establish this head and shoulders pattern. Then you can start calculating directly. After the breakthrough, you can set a stop loss, meaning once it breaks through, it won't fall below the line, right? So, we can set it below what line, especially at the lower edge of its consolidation area. I often mention this. Then, if the support holds without breaking, that's the first wave. And the second wave is the distance from the bottom to the neckline, equal to the percentage distance after the breakthrough. All right, in this way, we can minimize the risk, meaning there's a small chance of losing a small amount of money and a high chance of making a large profit, right? This is necessary for every trade. Calculations are important, so let's examine. Just mentioned earlier, this is a chart from a book I sketched in 2014. Let's discuss the head and shoulders pattern again, but with emphasis on the satisfaction of the price increase. The structure was brought together, which was initially published in my book. In fact, I have been working on this for approximately 20 or 30 years. Most likely having these concepts around 2,000 years ago. All right, this was already in position approximately around 1997 to 1998, when my teaching already introduced this. All right, so what's your opinion, huh? They appear to be identical. Left shoulder bottom, right shoulder, this is a breakthrough. Breakthrough means efficiency. The operating point is the efficiency operating point we just discussed, and the stop loss point is set below it. So you can calculate, my risk is just a little bit, and my profit here reaches two peaks. As long as you are satisfied, it's good. It's still rising here, just be satisfied. Two waves of gains are satisfying, rising just like this. This is what happened with AMD this year. This is from my book in 2014. This is about efficiency. The operational point is very nice. Of course, it has also gone through a period of consolidation. At least it is an efficient operational point. Okay, after advanced micro devices, AMD, reached its highest point, the subsequent decline was more than 30%. Now, let's consider Nvidia. Its decline was approximately 20% since AMD experienced an earlier increase primarily. In terms of fundamentals, as we've discussed before, the fundamentals will be reflected relatively on the technical side. So in comparison to Intel, Nvidia's orders for AI are quite sufficient. AMD is the market I mentioned that will give it an opportunity. So it has risen a lot indeed. We have seen that recently. That Nvidia, it's getting stronger again. The key point of this strength is that there is a large volume here. Why did this large volume pull back by 20%? That indicates that this is a selling volume. So if you try to chase it here, your risk will be relatively high. Why would there be a false breakout? This suggests that the supply of the market has probably reached its highest point. So once it reaches the peak, the structure of supply and demand will undergo changes. While the supply is still present, the demand exceeds the supply, creating an imbalance in supply and demand that will eventually shift. Ultimately, the supply and demand will reach a state of balance, signifying equilibrium in the market's dynamics and indicating a point where the supply and demand are in equal proportion. The market will have maintenance, including such as in that manner, or like TSMC, their orders will remain at the high end for a while, so the market will consolidate, reflecting on the technical side, hovering at the high end for a period, and only then, because if there is no growth potential in the future, it will start to reverse. So the key now is to watch for this breakthrough not to fall below that point, meaning that the resistance is relatively close here. Conversely, what do we aim for in trading? Pursuing the lowest possible risk. Let's look at Nvidia and AMD. AMD. It is also a false breakout. If it retraces by 30%, as I have taught before, what is the significance of this breakout? This is the first bar with volume, indicating a strong attack by the main force. The cost of the main force attack is located here, along with the cost of turnover in the relay. Additionally, there is volume present, placing it within the turnover area of the main force. Moreover, there is another breakthrough observed at this point, which implies further significance. The turnover rate of this main force is high in this area. Expenses are skyrocketing. We need to tidy up a bit. Market making is about looking at the chips. Where is the main force's cost? If you buy in the same cost zone as them, your relative risk is lower. All right, that's what was just mentioned. When comparing it to Maryland, it is relatively lower in terms of rank and value. And assuming here, for example, if we want to do it, we need to set a stop loss. The lower edge is our set stop loss, so my risk is controlled and the risk is low. The profits are all yours as long as you manage your risk well. The risk is my stop loss point. Once the stop loss point is set, for example, it is only that percentage. It is only between 5% to 7%, probably around 5% only. In the current form, let's draw the line and evaluate the situation carefully, taking all factors into account. Okay. Estimate my risk. What about this support? If it breaks, I'll set a stop loss, so my risk is only 5%. All profit after profit is yours. Even if it's a small loss, like $1 million, I'd lose at most 50K. If it rises by 20% later, I'd make 100K. That's a 20K profit. In terms of probability, the likelihood of me losing may only be around 10% because it's relatively higher. Next, my breakthrough point. Your chance of success is 80% and the chance of failure is 20%. But at this point, your success rate will decrease somewhat, but it's still around 30%, which is my 30% chance. If it will lose 5%, then what about going up? Of course, we should aim for profits of at least 20% or more, with a probability of over 70%. All right, this way, I have a higher chance of making big money and a lower chance of losing small money. This is what I have been emphasizing. You need to calculate these probabilities. Calculate the probabilities well. As I mentioned in The Art of War, first secure victory and then seek battle. That's all for today. Thank you, everyone.